All right.
Like those pages. They'll see what they missed.
I finally found him. I had to run all over this place. It actually got to the point where I actually used the speed multiplier console command just to increase my run speed, just to try to cover as much ground as I could, as fast as I can, just to catch him. I have no idea where Serana is right now. I left her behind in the dust like I was the Flash.
Once I get it done, first I'll publish a regular edition, then the folio. I'll be rich.
So, how many of you are old school Elder Scrolls fans that have gone back to the days of Morrowind? I imagine this is a bit of a treat for you guys.
And without any regard for my safety, I fearlessly charge the enemy. No, much too dramatic. What do you want?
What are you doing?
How does anyone expect me to write my opus with all of these rude interruptions?
So, for those who may not know, this is the original voice actor from Morrowind for the Dark Elves. He used to, Morrowind had some voice acting, but not much. A lot of it was just you reading the dialogue. But sometimes you would get occasional little voice lines, and as for the Dark Elves, especially the male ones, it was like that. That's one I always remember hearing when I would see clips of Morrowind or when I tried it out myself. So this is the original voice actor. They actually got him to come back to do this, and this is just a cool little treat. And from what I understand, this is a actual long-running character that goes back to Morrowind. This is an actual character that you meet in Morrowind, from what I understand. Opus, what do you mean?
What do I mean, indeed? If I hadn't lost all of the pages, I wouldn't be in this predicament, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Alright, let's just start at the beginning.
Very well. I suppose a moment or two of my time couldn't hurt. I am Chib. Some call me Saint Chib. Others call me Chib the Eradicator. Perhaps you've heard of me.
Now, this is funny because, keep in mind, my character at the moment I'm playing right here for this is a Dark Elf. So you would think a Dark Elf, of all the races that you could play in this game, would actually have a different dialogue option as opposed to, nope, I've never heard of you. Now, maybe for Skyrim players that never played Morrowind, maybe that, yeah, they would have never heard of this guy. But there should be another option here for longtime players of this series who actually would have been like, oh my gosh, it's Jeeb! Yes, I do know who you are. But nope, everybody has to say, nope, I've never heard of you.
I can't say that I'm surprised by your answer. Until I get my second volume published, no one will ever know my achievements.
You're talking about a book?
A book? I'd hardly call a 26-volume epic simply a book.
Oh, you're one of those authors.
Heard of the rise and fall of Saint Chib the Eradicator, hero of Morrowind and savior of the Dhalma.
How is your work going so far?
Terrible. Simply terrible. I was in the midst of writing the second volume, and they just threw me into this prison. It's unfair.
Prison? You mean the Soul Cairn?
Soul what? What in the name of Vivek are you talking about?
Vivek.
All I remember is that damn Dremora and his minions bursting into my home and sending me to their prison.
So, by the way, I've heard... Now, for a period of time, back when Oblivion was like the latest game, there was work on a mod called Skyblivion, or not Skyblivion, Morroblivion, or was it Oblivion? I think it was Morroblivion, or something like that. Anyway, that was the latest one at the time. From what I understand at the time, at this point in time, it's no longer supported because they instead want to make Skywind. They're also working on Skyblivion, but Skywind, from what I understand, is also something that either is still in the works or was. I'm not entirely sure what the story is on that right now. But let me just say that I am someone who is actually in favor of that. As someone who has never really played Morrowind that much, because I personally don't think the game has aged that well, and I'm not sure how much fun I actually would have playing that. I would love it if Morrowind was converted using the Skyrim engine, and it was kind of brought into the fold, like with the Skyrim engine. I could be able to actually experience Morrowind through a more modern kind of setup, kind of like with Skyrim here. Like, I am looking forward to Sky Oblivion when that comes out in a couple years. At least that's the projected release time that they'll actually have it ready, is in a couple years or so. They had a trailer for that recently. So I'm in favor of that. I want to try that out, even though I also still want to try the original Oblivion. Like I said, I'm actually working on seeing if I can make a playthrough of that happen, just kind of testing stuff out. But I would also love to do the same for Morrowind, honestly. I mean, Morrowind, if it wasn't for Morrowind, Skyrim, and, well, I guess... here's the funny part. I was going to say, if it wasn't for Morrowind, Bethesda probably would not even be around anymore today, and we wouldn't have had other games that came out later on, including some of the other Fallout games, and of course Oblivion and Skyrim. And I'll bet some people would have been like, oh, thanks, Morrowind, because I'm sure some people are not too happy about that with Bethesda and such. But the point I'm trying to make by saying that is that we owe a lot to Morrowind. Morrowind is extremely important because even though Oblivion was the game that put a Bethesda on the map in terms of a popular game studio, Morrowind was the game that saved Bethesda from actually not existing. They were going to go bankrupt until until they made Morrowind, and it was a smash hit, and it basically saved their company. So... And Morrowind laid the groundwork for a lot of stuff that happened later on. So Morrowind is a game we owe a lot to. So I would love to, even though it's possible for me to play Morrowind right now, and I could actually try and set up mods for it and such, even though the mod manager can work for Morrowind, from what I've seen, a lot of the mods that were made were not necessarily made for mod managers and such. You actually have to do a bit more complicated manual installation work and such. So, plus I don't know how extensive the mods scene for Morrowind is comparison to, say, Skyrim and even Oblivion. But whether it, I'm just saying I would be okay with playing Skywind as opposed to Morrowind, but I'm willing to, give Morrowind a shot someday. I would just have to do some more research and extensive, looking into it to see whether or not I think it would be a good, feasible playthrough. Plus, being able to try and figure out, what I can actually do or how to actually play it, since it's a little bit more, how do I put this? I guess old school in its ways, But anyways, I'm not trying to speak negatively of Morrowind. I'm trying to praise Morrowind in that regard. A Dromora captured you?
Well, I assume so. It cast a spell at me from some kind of strange black crystal. Next thing I knew, I arrived here.
So your soul was trapped.
My what? Wait. That means...
You're dead.
No. All these wasted months? Or has it been years? I don't even remember how much time has passed. No, my work will never see the light of day. My name will be forgotten.
Could I help?
Perhaps. Do you have a way out of here?
I do, but you can't leave that way.
Maybe I can't leave, but my writings can. In order to write the second volume of my opus, I need the notes from my first volume. Otherwise, I need to do all of this from memory.
How many pages did you lose?
When I was tossed in here, I felt myself falling. I dropped the pages I had been holding. There were 10 of them in all. Find them for me, please. I beg you.
How did you earn your nickname?
Ah, yes. Say Jib the Eradicator, Jib the Magnificent. I've earned a lot of those titles thanks to my campaign against the Winged Menace.
The Winged Menace?
Yes. I'm speaking of the Cliff Racer, of course. Wretched things. They used to crisscross the skies of Morrowind like vermin. Nasty flying creatures with a habit of sneaking up on the unwary.
So, from what I understand, that was very much what used to happen to players back in the day when they played Morrowind. Because cliff racers were definitely one of those things that all of a sudden they just kind of snuck up on the player and were just like, ah! And the player would be like, ah, get off me, ah! From what I understand, players hated cliff racers. So, what was your campaign against them?
After I was freed from prison, I decided to turn my life around. Give something back to the people of Morrowind. It became quickly apparent that the best way I could help would be by wiping out the cliff racers.
Were you successful?
Indeed I was. I hunted down and killed every last one of them. Took years. The people of Morrowind were so grateful to have the roads safer again, they took to calling me St. Chip, and then the other names followed.
So, he got his nicknames because he eliminated all of the cliff racers. He's a hero! You said you were in a prison?
That was a dark time in my life. I did a lot of things I ended up regretting. Maybe that's why I worked so hard to redeem myself once I was freed.
What did you do?
I murdered others for money. And before you think I belong to some romantic or secretive guild, think again. I was simply an addict who needed money for skooma. The stuff wasn't cheap, and murder always seemed to be in demand.
That's why the Morag Tong and especially the Dark Brotherhood keep staying around. How'd you get caught?
I finally bit off more than I could chew. I was paid to assassinate some high-ranking official from House Redmond. What I didn't know is someone had hired the Morag Tong to kill him as well.
Rival assassin?
Exactly. He got to my target first and called the guard to cover his tracks. By the time I got there, the place was on alert. Walked right into a trap and didn't even realize it until I was captured.
So what ended up happening to you?
They tried me for murder, threw me on a prison ship, and sent me to the jail in Vivek City. Gave me a lot of time to think, that's for sure.
Why would a Dremora attack you?
Well, that's a ridiculous question. Everyone traveling through here has said that the Oblivion Gates have been opening all over Tamriel.
Well, that was back in Oblivion. That was a bit before my time.
Has it been that long? Oh my. Well, it started with the followers of Mehrunes Dagon having Emperor Uriel Septim VII assassinated.
So he's talking about Oblivion, of course.
Septim on the throne of the Empire, Dagon was able to leave Oblivion through the gates and attack.
Why was Dagon able to do this?
All I heard is that without a Septim sitting on the throne of the Empire, the dragon fires in a place called the Temple of the One were no longer lit. This meant that we were vulnerable to the forces of Oblivion.
What ended up happening?
Well, I don't know. Everything seemed fine until that Dremora attacked me. I only heard later about the gates from the other souls. I can only assume the gates have been closed by now.
Yeah, we don't have Oblivion Gates opening up all over Skyrim. That was in Cyrodiil. Where were you captured?
I had just moved from my ancestral home in Morrowind to the continent of Cyrodiil. I settled in the city of Kavach to write my memoirs and to find some peace and quiet.
Is that where you were attacked?
Indeed. One moment I was writing diligently, and the next, my door bursts open. It was a cadre of Dremora. The city was under attack. I took it upon myself to join the cause and fight the Dremora, thinking this would simply be another feather in my cap.
Didn't work out that way, I assume.
The reason I'm standing in front of you as only a whisper of my former self should tell you that. I never knew what became of Kvatch. I wonder if they were triumphant without me. Now, where was I?
While exploring the soul cairn, I've come across the soul of a strange dumber named Jib. He claims to be writing the second volume of his life story, but lacks the notes from his first in order to complete it. He's asked for my help in locating the pages which are likely spread across the entire soul cairn. Quite a daunting task. Alright, now that we have found him, which, by the way, you'll notice that Serana still hasn't caught up with us, wherever she is. Oh, wait, this is... Alright, so the waypoint here is a little bugged, because I actually ended up going up here by mistake, and ended up already taking out one of the keepers here. And the waypoint doesn't change unless you actually go through the other thing that's up here. Yeah, this one here. Otherwise, it still tells you to go up there. So, yeah. Alright, now that it's actually acknowledged that, now it'll actually show me the waypoint to Valerica. Which, again, you'll notice Serana still isn't here. I honestly don't know where she is. Like, Serana, where are you? I'm seriously hoping I didn't bug it out and just kind of, like, make her be stuck somewhere. I really hope she's actually making her way towards me. So, otherwise I may have to look up her code and do the move to me command. There's Valerica hiding back there. The only issue is that Serana is nowhere to be found. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to give Serana a moment to try to catch up to us. If not, I'm going to look up the console to actually transport her to me. See, what is her ID number? Skyrim, Serana. Okay. Alright, let's try this. Oh, whoops, I mistyped that. Messed that up. Whoops. There she is.
Mother! Can be. Serana? Is it really you? I can't believe it. How do we get inside? We have to talk.
Serana, what are you doing here? Where's your father?
He doesn't know we're here. I don't have time to explain.
I must have failed. Harkon's found a way to decipher the prophecy, hasn't he?
No, you've got it all wrong. We're here to complete the prophecy our way, not his.
Wait a moment. You've brought a stranger here? Have you lost your mind?
No, you don't...
You, come forward. I would speak with you. So how has it come to pass that a vampire of mixed blood is in the company of my daughter?
If you're wondering, Valerica looks different. Yeah, it's one of those appearance changing mods that I found for her. This one I believe is called Pandorable NPC Valerica. So in case you're curious which one it is. I've been keeping her safe.
Safe? You call bringing her here safe? Has she explained nothing to you? Serana has sacrificed everything to prevent Harkon from completing the prophecy. I would have expected her to explain that to you.
Well, that's why I'm here for the Elder Scroll.
You think I'd have the audacity to place my own daughter in that tomb for the protection of her Elder Scroll alone? The scrolls are merely a means to an end. The key to the tyranny of the sun is Serana herself.
What do you mean?
When I fled Castle Volkihar, I fled with 2 Elder Scrolls. The scroll I presume you found with Serana speaks of Ariel and his arcane weapon, Ariel's bow. The second scroll declares that the blood of Cold Harbor's daughter will blind the eye of the dragon.
So how does Serana fit in?
Like myself, Serana was a human once. We were devout followers of Lord Molig Bal. Tradition dictates the females be offered to Molig Bal on his summoning day. Few survive the ordeal. Those that do emerge as a pure-blooded vampire. We call such confluences the Daughters of Cold Harbor.
Gosh, it just bothers me when I hear her say that because, as I mentioned, notice how she just said few survived the ordeal. That's because, and I'm going to try to censor this because, I'd rather not say what he actually does. But let's just say he violates the females against their will. Remember, Serana said she didn't do this willingly. And, he does not treat the females well at all. Again, I'm trying to really censor how bad and awful this actually is. And he did this to both Serana and Valerica. And any other female who actually survived to become a full-on vampire, including the original. Remember, that's what Serana told us. Did she undergo this willingly?
It was expected of her, just as it was expected of me. Being selected as an offering to Molig Bal is an honor. She wouldn't have dared turn her back on that.
I'll bet that's what you tell yourself to try to cope with what he did to you. Yeah, because, just in case anyone doesn't know what this is, Cold Harbor?
It's what some call the domain of Molig Bal. His place in oblivion.
Believe it or not, there is a mod where someone tried to actually add that as a place we can actually go to in this game. So the tyranny of the sun requires Serana's blood?
Now you're beginning to see why I wanted to protect Serana, and why I've kept the other Elder Scroll as far from her as possible.
Are you saying that Harkon means to kill her?
If Harkon obtained Ariel's bow, and Serana's blood was used to taint the weapon, the tyranny of the sun would be complete. In his eyes, she'd be dying for the good of all vampires.
I would never allow that to happen.
And how exactly do you plan on completing the prophecy without the death of my daughter?
I'll need your help.
Have you been listening to me? Like Serana, I'm a pure-blooded vampire. My presence on Tamriel is as much of a danger as hers.
And Serana's opinion on this?
You care nothing for Serana, or our plight. You see the tyranny of the sun as your chance at deification. And like Harkon, you won't hesitate to destroy anything that stands in your path.
That's amusing. That's what you think my motivation is in this. Serana believes me. Why won't you?
Serana? This stranger may call himself a vampire, but he knows nothing of our struggle. Why should I entrust you?
This stranger has done more for me in the brief time I've known him than you've done in centuries.
How dare you? I gave up everything I cared about to protect you from that fanatic you call a father.
Yes, he's a fanatic. He's changed. But he's still my father. Why can't you understand how that makes me feel?
If you'd only open your eyes. The moment your father discovers your role in the prophecy, that he needs your blood, you'll be in terrible danger.
So to protect me, you decided to shut me away from everything I cared about. You never asked me if hiding me in that tomb was the best course of action. You just expected me to follow you blindly. Both of you were obsessed with your own paths. Your motivations might have been different, but in the end, I'm still just a pawn to you two. I want us to be a family again. But I don't know if we can ever have that. Maybe we don't deserve that kind of happiness. Maybe it isn't for us. But we have to stop him, before he goes too far. And to do that, we need the Elder Scroll.
I'm sorry, Serana. I didn't know. I didn't see. I've allowed my hatred of your father to estrange us for too long. Forgive me. If you want the Elder Scroll, it's yours. Your intentions are still somewhat unclear to me, but for Serana's sake, I'll assist you in any way that I can.
Do you have the Elder Scroll with you?
Yes. I've kept it safely secured here ever since I was imprisoned. Fortunately, you're in a position to breach the barrier that surrounds these ruins.
What do we need to do?
You need to locate the tallest of the rocky spires that surround these ruins. At their bases, the barrier's energy is being drawn from unfortunate souls that have been exiled here. Destroy the keepers that are tending them, and it should bring the barrier down.
We'll return soon.
One more word of warning. There's a dragon that calls itself Durnevere roaming the Cairn. Be wary of him. The Ideal Masters have charged him with overseeing the Keepers, and will undoubtedly intervene if you're perceived as a threat.
So yeah, I've already killed 2 of the Bone Keepers. Why haven't you pursued the prophecy?
Harkon's vision is a world plunged in eternal darkness, where the vampire can flourish, and never again fear the tyranny of the sun. What he fails to realize is how much attention would be called to our kind if the prophecy came to fruition.
What sort of attention?
If eternal night fell, there are many who wouldn't stand for it. They would raise armies in attempts to return things to normal. The order of the day would be our destruction, until every last vampire was hunted down and eliminated.
So you prefer living in the shadows?
I do. It's how the vampire has survived for millennia, and the only way we can continue to survive in the future.
I agree with her. See, the thing is that Harkon, if we were to tell this to him, or try to make him understand this, he would just be like, "Pah! We are so powerful, they could send their armies and we would just eliminate them," when that's not really true, because he continues to have a bloated ego to the point where he doesn't realize, no, you're actually not that strong. But he thinks he's actually strong enough to take them all on and defeat them, which is a joke. So how did you become imprisoned here?
When I entered the Soul Cairn, I had intended to strike a bargain with the Ideal Masters, the custodians of this place.
What was the bargain?
I requested refuge in the Soul Cairn, and in exchange, I would provide the Ideal Masters the souls that they craved. If I had foreseen the value they placed on my own soul, I would never have come here.
They tricked you.
The Ideal Masters unleashed their keepers and sent them to destroy me. Fortunately, I was able to hold them at bay and retreat into these ruins.
You became trapped.
Unfortunately, yes. Since the keepers weren't able to claim my soul, they had their minions construct a barrier that I'd never be able to breach.
So you've been imprisoned here for all this time.
Time has very little meaning to me. Consequently, it has little meaning to the Ideal Masters as well. I suppose you could call this the ultimate waiting game, each watching the other to see which will give in.
Who are the Ideal Masters? And I want her to give the actual answer, which is, which is the answer I give to so many things when it comes to questions about the lore of the Elder Scrolls.
When I entered the Soul Cairn, I had intended to strike a bargain with the Ideal Masters, the custodians of this place.
And I say that because that's how Bethesda feels about it. That's their answer.
I requested refuge in the Soul Cairn, and in exchange, I would provide the Ideal Masters the souls that they craved. If I had foreseen the value they placed on my own soul, I would never have come here.
Apparently I already did this.
And keep my... Only a single spire remains. I know very little about them. They're mystic entities that lord over the soul cairn, controlling every aspect from its fabric to its appearance.
What do they resemble?
Well, some necromancers believe they are the crystalline structures dotting the soul cairn. I believe there's more to it than that.
How so?
I think they transcend what we perceive as a physical form. Perhaps they were once corporeal beings, but they've obviously reached a point where they no longer require a tangible presence.
And the crystals?
Conduits, through which the Ideal Masters speak to their underlings and feed on their victims.
Why would they require sustenance?
The Ideal Masters' weakness is their insatiable hunger for pure souls. It's the reason for the Soul Cairn's existence, and the only leverage a necromancer has when bargaining with them.
So what do the Masters provide in return?
The ability to summon powerful undead guardians, as one would conjure an Atronak or Daedra. However, the majority of necromancers that are foolish enough to enter into a bargain with the Ideal Masters wind up here, as harvested souls.
So if I leave the Soul Cairn, can I safely return?
As you've been traveling in the Soul Cairn, your body has become attuned to it. Let's just say a tiny part of you rubbed off on it, and in its place, a bit of the Soul Cairn filled the void. You should find no difficulty using the portal any longer. Be careful, and keep my daughter safe.
Oh, she'll be fine. Now, if you guys want to see how fast I can actually go, because I was doing this earlier... Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do the CW Flash music. Oh, you want some too? Serana just sees me run off, and she's just like, you know what? Nope, nope, just no. Whee! I wonder if there's a console command for changing my jumping height. I can just change how high I jump. Oh well. Yeah. Oops. It's just me, Valerica. Oh. Alright, Serana, get over here.
Hang on. Did you hear something?
They'll go away eventually. I like how the two of them are ready to fight together right here.
What have you got?
Oh my goodness. There, we good? May we continue? Serana, don't go running off.
You managed to destroy all 3 keepers? Very impressive.
So are you able to give us the scroll now?
Yes. Please follow me. Keep watch for Durnevere. With the prison's barrier down, he's almost certain to investigate.
So I don't usually do this. So let me try something. I'm actually going to... I'll probably one-shot him here, but with this absurdly overpowered bow I have, with also absurdly overpowered arrows. But let's see if I can actually just kind of shoot him down. By the way, get ready to hear Godzilla.
Wait. Here's something.
Hi, Durnevere. I may just let this boss fight continue for a bit just to hear Godzilla roar. For those of you who do not know, I am a massive fan of Godzilla. So this mod put a huge smile on my face. Oh, by the way, I think that's another one of the mods, which is that the dragons will be a little bit more talkative during fights.
Forgive my astonishment, but I never thought I'd witness the death of that dragon.
What makes you say that?
Volumes written on Durnevere allege that he can't be slain by normal means. It appears they were mistaken. Unless...
Go on.
The soul of a dragon is as resilient as its owner's scaly hide. It's possible that your killing blow has merely displaced Durnevere's physical form while he reconstitutes himself.
How long will that take?
Minutes, hours, years. I can't even begin to guess. I suggest we don't wait around to find out. Now, let's get you the Elder Scroll and you can be on your way.
Really, Serana? Of course she has lots of books to read. How else is she going to pass the time in this place?
Now that you've retrieved the Elder Scroll, you should be on your way.
You're staying here?
I have no choice. As I told you before, I'm a daughter of Cold Harbor. If I return to Tamriel, that increases Harkon's likelihood of bringing the tyranny of the sun to fruition.
We'll return for you when we can.
I appreciate your concern for me, but Serana is all that I care about. You must keep her safe at all costs. Remember that Harkon is not to be trusted. No matter what he promises, he'll deceive you in order to get what he wants. And promise me you'll keep my daughter safe. She's the only thing of value I have left. Did you have anything to ask before you depart?
So why don't you come back with us?
Even if I could, it would only serve to hinder your efforts. Harkon would likely sense my return to Tamriel. The last thing you need right now is a trail for him to follow.
You said even if I could? Why?
Like Serana, I am a daughter of Cold Harbor, a vampire offspring of Molig Bal. My presence in Tamriel would simply double the risk that Harkon could complete the prophecy.
And if Harkon failed?
The only way I'd even consider returning to Tamriel is if Harkon were not only to fail, but to be destroyed.
You hate him that much?
You must understand. He's no longer the man I married all that time ago. He's obsessed. Insane. Everyone around him fears him as they would a rabid dog. For all of this to end, he must die.
So...
Farewell. Remember that Harkon's not to be trusted.
If I was doing this from a role-playing perspective, my character's motivation as a vampire lord who is set on defeating Harkon and taking over as the new lord of the castle and that group of vampires would be to also make sure that these two are very much taken care of, under my rule. Like, I would get rid of Harkon and then make sure that... Imagine me, holding each of them under my arms, in a hug. As if I'm, hugging both of them, telling them I'm going to take care of you and protect you, from now on, after I get rid of Harkon. Of course, making sure that the both of them could be able to live in Castle Volkihar in peace and not be afraid anymore, because any of those other vampires even dare to consider harming either of these two, would have to answer to me. That would be my character's motivation at this point. I mean, we could even go into further stuff, if I become the new leader of the vampires, I would consider, since many people did want to romance and marry Serana in this game, that you could even, take her, as a wife, and have, of course, Valerica reside in the castle as your new mother-in-law and all that, If we're getting into further role-playing aspects when it comes to these Elder Scrolls games, which many people do love to do, they even further with some other mods, having to sleep, having to eat. There's some really interesting, there's a survival mode thing in this game, which I think is a very fascinating and awesome option. I personally don't want to use it, but it is here. And I love the fact that it's here for those who want this. I'm just kind of showing this here, that that's a thing. I think that's a great option for those who want that. Durnavir.
Stay your weapons. I would speak with you, Quinarin.
I thought you were dead.
Cursed, not dead. Doomed to exist in this form for eternity. Trapped between Laas and Enoch. Between life and death.
Didn't you try to kill me?
The hostility was necessary. I was bound to an oath.
Why are we speaking?
I believe in civility among seasoned warriors, and I find your ear worthy of my words. My claws have rendered the flesh of innumerable foes, but I have never once been felled on the field of battle. I therefore name you Quinarin, or Vanquisher in your tongue.
I found you equally worthy.
Your words do me great honor. My desire to speak with you was born from the result of our battle, Quinarin. I merely wish to respectfully ask a favor of you.
Can I just say that some of the dragons in this game are actually some of my favorite characters in this game? And I just find that interesting that, they could have just gone with the whole, oh, they're just dragons, and they're just there. But the fact that they actually made some of them very kind of interesting or compelling characters, like PapaNeeks, Durnavir, I just thought was very cool. Make these beasts, actual interesting characters, What kind of favor?
For countless years I've roamed the Soul Cairn in unintended service to the Ideal Masters. Before this, I roamed the skies above Tamriel. I desire to return there.
What's stopping you?
I fear that my time here has taken its toll upon me. I share a bond with this dreaded place. If I ventured far from the Soul Cairn, my strength would begin to wane until I was no more.
How could I help?
I will place my name with you and grant you the right to call my name from Tamriel. Do me this simple honor, and I will fight at your side as your Graze Mazen, your ally, and teach you my Thum.
Just call your name in Tamriel? That's it?
Trivial in your mind, perhaps. For me, it would mean a great deal. I don't require an answer, Quinarin. Simply speak my name to the heavens when you feel the time is right.
Turn Avir! Why do you call me Quinarin?
In my language, the Quinarin is the vanquisher, the one who has bested a fellow Dova in battle.
Sorry. I think this is that cinematic Dragon Soul Absorption mod that I added, which adds the extra part of that Dragonborn theme to it. I didn't mean to have that happen while he was talking. I'm sorry, fellow Dova, but I'm not a dragon.
Forgive me. My instinct was to grant you this title. I am uncertain why. Perhaps one day it will become clear to both of us.
Now that's an interesting line of dialogue that I have never seen before. I've played this many times, but I've never done it before actually doing the portion of the main story where you actually discover that you are the Dragonborn. This is the first time, like, keep in mind, this character has not even gone to Helgen and have, like, seen Alduin or gone to the Barrow. You know, he hasn't even done that. So we haven't even touched the main story quest on this character. So that was an interesting line of dialogue that I don't think I've ever heard before. But it's good they added it in here. Because if he had just said, oh, well, you are the Dragonborn, I would have been like, I'm sorry, what? How did you end up here in the Soul Cairn?
There was a time when I called Tamriel my home. But those days have long since passed. The Dova roamed the skies, vying for their small slices of territory that resulted in immense and ultimately fatal battles.
Were you a part of all that?
I was. But unlike some of my brethren, I sought solutions outside the norm in order to maintain my superiority. I began to explore what the Dova call Elok Dylan, the ancient forbidden art that you call necromancy.
So you sought the Soul Cairn for answers.
The Ideal Masters assured me that my powers would be unmatched, that I could raise legions of the undead. In return, I was to serve them as a keeper until the death of the one who calls herself Valerica.
And they didn't tell you that she was immortal.
I discovered too late that the Ideal Masters favor deception over honor, and had no intention of releasing me from my binding. They had control of my mind, but fortunately they couldn't possess my soul.
Is that why you're free now?
Free? No. I have been here too long, Quanarin. The soul Cairn has become a part of what I am. I can never fully call Tamriel my home again, or I would surely perish. I only hope that you will allow me the precious moments of time there, through your call.
Which he can then help us in battles if we actually summon him during a fight, so... See you, Durnavir. By the way, I actually did complete the Arvak side quest here. I would love to look up how to actually do this quest here. I'm gonna have to, like, figure that out. So it's worth noting that this is effectively where we now have to kind of take a break from doing some of this stuff, because as you can see, in order to progress it, we actually need to go get the other Elder Scroll, which is in that Dwarven Ruin, which is part of the... which can be part of the main story, but it's going to be funny if I continue this on my own and see what it's like when Parthenos is like, by the way, you need to go get an Elder Scroll, and I'll be like, oh, you mean this Elder Scroll? And he's like, oh, you have it. Okay, then. So, I don't know, maybe before we actually head back, maybe I'll actually try to figure this out or see what this is like. Because I honestly would love to do this to help out Jeeb, because it's Jeeb, you know? He's an important character, at least to the fan base. So, I am very curious about actually how to do this quest, or how to actually find these pages. If apparently they actually are scattered. In fact, let me take a moment to check this quest on the wiki here. Let me just go ahead and pull it up real quick. This is called Impatience of a Saint. So let's see what the wiki says about this quest. Yep. By the way, if you're wanting to know where you can find Jeeb, he's found approximately south, or rather southeast, from Valerica's location among a grave of dead trees along a path. So, the page locations. The staircase that the Dragonborn ascends to enter the Soul Cairn is located in the southwestern end of the map. The prison holding Valerica is directly northeast of that staircase and roughly halfway. So it actually will give you, on the wiki page, it actually shows the locations of each of the 10 different pages here. And then the journal entries are, I have located all the notes that Jeeb lost when he arrived in the Soul Cairn. I should return to him when I get the chance. I returned all of the lost notes to the poor soul. He presented me with an amulet and a pristine copy of his first volume in appreciation for my efforts. And that completes the quest. So the trivia listed here is that Jeeb is the Dunmer prisoner that is traveling with the Neverine at the very start of Morrowind. He mentions getting transferred from prison and traveling to Seda Neen to drop off someone before he was taken to Vivek. So when you first start playing Morrowind and you're on that ship on the way to Morrowind, on the way there, that's the Dark Elf you talk to. Jeeb claims to have died during the attack on Kavach during the Oblivion Crisis. So he's also in the Kavach thing, which I guess we never actually find him when we're there, but yeah. On PC, I can do the console command to set the stage to mark the quest complete, even if I only have some of the pages. Because apparently sometimes you can have issues actually getting these pages. There can also be some clipping issues as well, apparently. So yeah, this would require me to kind of go around and actually get these things. I'm curious about what exactly the amulet is that you get from him, if it's actually worth getting. But of course, I can also be very interested in reading his actual, like, journal, that he gives you. So yeah, I think the best thing to do would be to just simply pull up the wiki so you can actually see where it marks each of the 10 pages in order to complete this quest, if you actually wanted to go ahead and do this. Which, who knows, I may actually do on my own, and if I do, I'll have the volume and then kind of show it to you, because I have to take a break anyway, because even if we go back, we just simply return and we unlock the balcony to fast travel back to this location. But we have to then just go to the Arcanum, talk to the guy about, hey, do you know where an Elder Scroll is? And he'll direct us to the Sigmas outpost, where he tells us, take this lexicon and go into the ruin, in which we go down there, we use the lexicon to get that Elder Scroll, we go back to him, and we then get the quest to get the Augma Infinium for Hermaeus Mora, but then we can just go straight back to Harkham and be like, hey, I have all the scrolls. And that's probably where we'll continue, because I'll just go ahead and do the whole going through the Dwemer ruin to get the scroll on my own off camera. So I'll probably go ahead and stick around and go ahead and try to see if I can do this quest quick and get that journal from Jeeb, just to show it off, and then do that whole portion, and then we'll probably continue this when I have all 3 Elder Scrolls and are going back to the castle. So stay tuned.